Okay, so this is a hopefully brief video just showing you some key highlights on Canvas. Hopefully this will be something that is useful for veterans, people who have already used Canvas here before in Montclair State or other places. But if you are fresh into Canvas, then I will be telling you things that are kind of of general applicability, but also things that are really kind of going to be specific for my course. Okay, so let's buckle up and get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just give you a tour of the home page, and just so you know the general layout of Canvas and can pick out the really important things from my course in particular. And I will be contrasting, because my course is weird, with possibly what's the more usual or typical thing that you will find in other courses. So the easiest way for me to do that is to switch source 2 to page. There we go. Okay, so what I'm showing you here should be really similar to what you are currently seeing when you navigate to the home page in Canvas. It looks just a slight bit different for me because I'm in what's called student view for an instructor. So that usually looks pretty close to what a real student looks like, but this is like a fake student, so that doesn't always line up, but it should be pretty good. It should be good enough for this tour. All right, so you come into class, you come into the landing page. The syllabus is the default home page. I'll keep that as the default home page for our course for the whole term. Other Canvas sites, other courses might pick a different page as the home page. They might have a totally custom page. They might pick assignment flow or something, or activity flow as the kind of the default landing page for you to sign in on. I picked the syllabus because it's got lots of useful information in it that will be consistently valuable as we navigate through the course. Plus, what you don't see here yet, but you see right at the top here, there's this little header that says recent announcements. On my landing page, on the home page, as from time to time, as the term goes on, I will be posting announcements in class. You should get those on your dashboard, but you will also see and you probably also will get them via email as well if you haven't changed your notification settings all that much. But just in case you have, or you dismiss them a little bit too quickly, I've set up my Canvas page such that the two most recent announcements are put on this home landing page for you, so that the two most recent announcements are always available. If it's something that's been later than that, the third most recent announcement or later, then you're kind of out of luck, but you can always send me an email. I vaguely remember getting an announcement or seeing an announcement about this, but it's been a while and I don't see it on the home page. Can you help me out? I'll be perfectly happy to answer those kind of emails for you. But the main things that I wanted to show you here, so when I click home, obviously it's going to bounce me right back to syllabus because I've defined the syllabus as the home page. The other really important pages on here, this one's a little bit less important for the asynchronous because I've got all these videos set up so you have kind of everything at your fingertips already through the modules. But there is a collected tips slide deck, so a kind of a reference manual if you don't want to go back to a particular video to help you through a particular assignment. This might be the place because this has all of the slides that I use in all my videos. Only the ones for argument mapping are all collected in this one deck. So that might be a useful way to go about business for you, though I would highly recommend instead to use the walkthrough videos that I have right before I give you an assignment to do some argument analysis or evaluation. But this is a good place to pick this up because it gives you step-by-step stuff. If you don't want to be listening to a video walkthrough, then these kind of recap the same thing just with slides, so you can flip back and forth. That might be something that you like, that's more useful to you. Of course, the kind of, other than the home page, the syllabus, the most useful and used page in my course for you should be the modules page. That's how we're organizing things on my course design here, that might be a little bit unusual compared to other courses, which might be, you might notice that there is no assignments page here. That's because I don't even want you to look at it, because it will be super confusing. So we're going to be talking about the modules page and working through modules in my class. And so I've got them set up kind of in order here, but the key things, if you've never seen a modules page before and you don't know how modules kind of works in a course, it's not super strange. What you'll see is, you can see this is the kind of the expand button. If I click that, it collapses all the assignments within that module down to nothing. So you can see there's lots of modules, right? Every reading has its own module, and then there are the other kind of more extensive modules with lots of assignments in them. The orientation module is the first one you're going to be doing. You can see the orientation to the course. This one right here, that's this student, this fake student, can't access this video that you're watching right now because they haven't submitted their simple quiz. If you're watching this right now, you've done that, right? But the key thing I wanted to show you here to get familiar with how modules work and how the unlocks work on things is that if it's available to you to do, it's going to be in black. If it's not available, it's grayed out. There are some maybe subtle clues here as to why this is grayed out. You can see that I've got the green check mark over here saying I've successfully viewed orientation of the course. That doesn't mean that I've scored any points necessarily in Perusall. The modules don't hook up to that, right? So there isn't any kind of minimum Perusall score that you need on viewing a lecture like the orientation lecture to unlock the next step. You just need to view it once, and Canvas will take that as you properly watched that video, whatever properly means, and so I'll unlock the next thing. For the simple quiz here, you can see it says submit, so this next step is going to stay locked until you actually take and submit the simple quiz, okay? But you can see lots of other things. All the videos are just going to be view. You just have to go view the video, and that will unlock the next step. As we get later on into the course, you will see some of the quizzes are going to have, and some of the other assignments are going to have minimum scores to progress. What that means is, if you don't score 1.5 out of 2.4, if you don't score 1.5 points at least on quiz number 0, then that's not going to count, as you can see right here, as completing all the items. You'll have check marks all the way up. This one will have a symbol that looks like this, or an empty checkbox, and you won't count this whole module as having been completed, which means that this module right here won't open up. That's right, this module here is unavailable. You can't start the first reading until you have finished the orientation module, which you can see right here, prerequisites, orientation, right? It's already locked. It's locked because of that. You need to successfully complete everything in here before you do this. Everything has the orientation module as a prerequisite, so get a jump on the orientation module, okay? And then later on you'll see that the two advanced argument analysis and evaluation modules have the introductory module, the introductory argument analysis and evaluation module, as that prerequisite. So you need to, that's how I stage things. So you can't jump ahead. You should not be able to bite off more than you can chew in terms of tasks in this course. You have to progress through things that, you know, build on one another. All right? So modules should be where you should be looking to see what can I do next. The answer to what can I do next is anything that's not grayed out. All right? Okay. Other things on here, we're going to be using Rationale Online. After you finish the orientation module, you get to the next module, the listicle tutorial module. You're going to be going to Rationale Online. I've got a link to it right here. It's kind of clumsy. You got to click once there and then click here. It'll spawn a new tab. I would highly recommend favoriting this landing page right here, and then later videos will show you actually how to use this website. Okay. The other thing that's a key difference between my course and other courses is the grades page. You go visit the grades page in a typical course, and it's going to look somewhat similar to this. The differences are going to become apparent to you really soon, because up here, usually you have a percentage. And as you can see, we've got lots of assignments here. Don't get freaked out. You don't have to do all these things. And it's not very intelligible, and sorting it in any particular way. If I go up to the top here, I can arrange it by module, I can arrange it by due date, assignment group. None of those things are really going to help you make sense of this. Modules is really important, and the kind of the flow chart in the syllabus about the modules in the course and how they hook together. Those are the kind of, that's how you should be oriented about what assignments to do and how far through the course you're getting. You go to the grades page though to check not any of this stuff right here, because this stuff is not really all that important, all the way in the bottom. Go all the way to the bottom. I've got a little mod on my grades page that alters how it displays your grade, because this is an accumulating points system that we're running. It's going to tell you right down here at the bottom the current number of points that you've scored. This is my test student. They haven't done any work. Right? This is my fake student. They haven't done any work. They have 0 points. 0 points is an F. But right down here, it's going to tell you I need to score 18 more points from my 0 to get to the next grade, which is a D-. So I'm going to scroll all the way back to the top here, and I'm going to go to the syllabus, right? So this corresponds to, I'm going to scroll down to assignments in the assignment and grading section of the syllabus. And so you can see right here, this is the chart, right? So 17 points or less, that's an F, but you get to 18 points, you're in D- territory. You work your way up, get to 25 points, D, so on and so forth. Go to the My Grades page, and it's going to track your progress on that score, right? So you'll be able to see those things, and you'll be able to see this, hopefully, steadily and continuously improve and climb up the grades, okay? Any percentages or anything else that you usually use in other courses to kind of get a grip on how you're doing in a course is going to be wildly inaccurate in my course. And that kind of segues back to, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. I did cover all of these things. Oh, I didn't cover to-do list. Let me pop back. Let me pop back and just talk a little bit about the to-do list, because that also is very useful, but it has limitations. So I'm going to go back to home, and this is where your to-do list pops up. And just like every other course, it's popping up assignments here based on due dates. I'm going to talk about due dates shortly, but this is not as useful as modules. Okay, so but it's kind of helpful, and you can start your you can work your way through by just doing the to-do list. But because the to-do list doesn't encode the kind of the locking and unlocking stuff in the modules, there might be something that looks selectable on here. Like I can jump past the orientation video, past the simple quiz, right to my Canvas tour. And if I hit that, like I can't actually see that because I haven't done things, previous needed things that modules told me I needed to do before I unlocked that. So the to-do list on the home page might not be as helpful as you're used to. All right. If you just want to dismiss things, you can click the X to dismiss those reminders, those to-do reminders, but they won't come back. So I would only X things out like that when you know that you have done that or don't need the reminder for it. All right. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is key dates, lates, and deadlines for this course. Now, given the way that I've structured the course for the asynchronous, self-paced kind of design here, there are due dates on almost all of the assignments and activities in the course, but the vast majority of them don't have any late penalties attached to those due dates. And if you think about it, that's the only reason why you care about due dates, is because something bad happens if you don't meet the due date, the deadline, on some activity or assignment, right? So why are those due dates present if there aren't any actual late penalties to give them teeth? Well, for most of the things that I have in here, even though it's all self-paced, I want to give you messages. I want to give you signals about where you are in the course and maybe how fast you're going and whether or not you want to speed up or whether you can relax a little bit in terms of your pacing. And so that's what most of the due dates in this course are designed around. They're there just to give you those kind of signals that you are kind of on pace to a good grade or you're falling behind a little bit. All right. So most activities do have due dates. They will show up in your to-do list. That's to tell you, hey, this is around the time that you should be completing these activities and moving on if you want to stay on pace for that relatively stress-free good grade. All right. Now, there are exceptions, okay? The readings that we're going to be doing in the topics and thinking module, those do also have due dates and release dates, right? You can't do those at your own pace. And that's because I am trying to make sure that the class as a whole focuses on the same 2 or 3 topics in thinking at a time as we move through the course. And so that's why those timings in terms of release dates and due dates actually have some teeth to them. And Perusall for those videos and readings has due dates, and then after the due dates, your ability to participate for points declines after the due date gets passed in Perusall. And that's to try and just keep the whole class together so that the comment activity stays nice and high in particular topics in reading so that everybody's on the same page, both literally and metaphorically, in the course when it comes to topics and readings. All right. But apart from that, apart from those fairly soft due dates with gradual late penalties, there aren't any late penalties in the course. There aren't any real due dates in the course except for one, and that's the one imposed on us by the real world, by the outside world, and that is the actual end of this course. The end of this course, I'm calling the coursework deadline date. That's usually the last day of classes, but since this is asynchronous, that's a kind of a fuzzy concept. So check the syllabus. It should be in nice bold letters right at the top of the home page what the coursework deadline date is. It may not be the same date as the last day of classes in your regular term. This class might end earlier, later. There's really no rhyme or reason for that kind of stuff. So you have to make sure that this class stays kind of special in your mind in terms of when it ends, in contrast to maybe some of your other courses. All right. Now, all of that being said, I do have another feature in this course to try and promote you to stay on track besides those deadline pacing reminders, besides those due dates that try and tell you when you're falling behind. And that is that I have some milestones in the course that are kind of attached to that pacing that I have for those due dates. And if you hit those milestones by the date that you need to hit them, then I will give you bonuses, not bonus points, but bonus time. That is, every time you hit one of those extensions, which you should be able to see if you look through modules, you'll be able to see that there's some entries in there that aren't really activities, but they're entries in the modules, and they're called extensions. And if you hit those extensions, that is, if you finish all of the module elements up till then and unlock the module so that you hit that particular milestone by the date you need to, I will add a day to the coursework deadline date for you and you only, so that you just have a little bit extra room to do late stuff right at that crunch time at the end of the term. All right. But that means that you need to get off to a strong start because all of those milestones are kind of in the first half of the course. And so if you're on pace in that first half of the course, you can earn up to 3 extra days at the end of the course to polish things off and make sure that you hit the grade that you want to hit. But those extra extensions will not be available to you if you start this course off slow, right? So this is another way for me to kind of gently encourage and push you to hit the ground running right at the start of this course. Get this orientation module under your belt really quick so that you can hit the real material and so that you can start accumulating real points and start learning real stuff. All right? So self-pacing can be really good. It's nice and flexible for you. For the most part, there's no problem with you missing due dates if something in your life comes up. I know that everybody has all sorts of obligations and responsibilities outside of being a student. That's fine. My course is designed for that stuff, but it's going to be dangerous if you take that flexibility too much for granted and you use it too much, because you'll be shoving all the work in this course right into the last couple of weeks, days, and then you will be in real trouble. So don't do that, okay? And if you have any worries about whether you're on pace, whether you're doing enough right now, whether you're kind of keeping up with the rate of work that you need to keep up, just give me an email or drop into office hours and we can take a look at stuff and I can tell you whether you really should be panicking or whether you're doing okay. Next topic here is, I know lots of people do Canvas on their phone. I don't want to discourage that necessarily, except to strongly discourage you from doing real substantial work on your phone. That is, submitting assignments or looking for feedback. It's probably okay to take quizzes on your phone. Perusall is not phone optimized, so it's going to be really crappy, but for posting comments and things like that. But if you just want to watch or listen to a video, then working on your phone is just fine. Rationale, when we start mapping arguments, is not doable on a phone. You need a bigger workspace. But the specific reasons why I'm going to strongly discourage you from doing substantial work on your phone within Canvas are, I think they're pointed out by these screenshots that I got shared with me by past students. And the first one is that when you navigate through stuff on your phone, partly this is because of my weird course design with modules and things like that, is that of course some things aren't unlocked because you haven't worked through modules, but on the phone, when you look at a particular assignment that you might be interested in doing because you clicked through it from your to-do list, it's basically just going to say this hasn't been unlocked yet, but it's not going to tell you what would unlock it. So you might feel a little bit discombobulated or confused. Partly that's maybe because you clicked into this assignment from the to-do list, but the other thing is that I would highly recommend is do assignments through modules, at least until you get your head wrapped around the course, so you know how to interpret this kind of message when you see it on your phone, right? So half the mistake here was this student likely got to this screen through the to-do list and not through modules, because getting to this inaccessible locked assignment would actually be impossible through modules. Don't ask me why Canvas doesn't gray this stuff out in your to-do list, but all it gives you is a relatively cryptic message. And this is kind of a trend of the other screenshots that I have here, is that with the limited real estate on the phone, it's going to cause some confusion because you won't see all the information that you see on the desktop version of the website. All right, and so that's my segue to here. This is feedback from one of the assignments that I grade and give back, and there's a couple things going on here. And one is that, of course, I'm awarding points. You can see those on the phone. You can see where you got points, but often I have some descriptions of that correspond to that 1 or that 0. So you can see that they don't fully explain things, they just trail off there. So your phone looking at your feedback on the rubric on your phone is really going to be of limited use because you don't get to see the whole message. That's especially important. That's especially important not for the ones that you maxed out on and got good points on, but for times when you didn't get scored or you didn't get the maximum score, right? because not only do you want to see the full message that describes what 1 means, but you can also, on the desktop, but not on your phone, you can see what a 2 looks like. That is, you can read the message that corresponds to scoring a 2 on this element of the rubric, and that can give you valuable pointers about what was missing. And I write these feedback things here on the assumption that you'll be able to see what a 2 looks like with a message for 2. So you'll be able to see what 1 says, what you scored. You'll be able to see what I'm expecting, the 2 score, and that can give you kind of way more insight. In addition to just seeing the 1 score, you'll be able to see the 2 score to interpret what's missing from your assignment that you need to fix on a resubmission. You don't see that stuff on a phone. The last thing that I wanted to say is that when you look on the phone, there's ways to go wrong that I haven't anticipated because the phone is set up differently than the desktop version of the Canvas app. And one of those things is you look at comments, this is an example of a person attaching something to a comment and thinking that counts as a resubmit or an original submission. You can see from their last comment right here, right? They've sent me another comment 3 days later saying, hey, I posted this, it's here, but Canvas is telling me it's missing. Well, there's a couple reasons for that. One is this is not how you submit assignments. You don't submit them through comments. You have to submit them through the actual blue button that says submit assignment. And the second thing that's an issue here is that when you post comments in an assignment submission page, like this one right here or like this one right here, without also actually submitting an assignment using the blue submit assignment button, I don't get notified. I didn't see any of this. It doesn't show up on my grading to-do list at all unless you actually submit an assignment. And you can't really, that's not obvious on the phone display here. So that's an issue. These are reasons why I'm not a big fan of relying on your phone. The last reason why I'm not a big fan of the phone is the grades page that I showed you, where it keeps track. I've modded the grades page to just show you your total points accumulated and what grade that translates into. That doesn't work on the phone. And on the dashboard on your phone, and probably the dashboard on the desktop too, it reports percentages. And for my course at least, wildly inaccurate. Okay? I would also suggest that even if your other courses use weighted percents and things like that, that you should not rely on the percents that you see in your dashboard for a particular course as being the official percentage for your course. Okay? Because different professors have different competencies and familiarities with how to set up their Canvas gradebook, right? And so they might be running a spreadsheet at home with kind of the official numbers that's not reflected in what Canvas auto calculates based on the things that the assignments in Canvas's gradebook. And so those percentages that you're looking at might be misleading. The second reason why those might be misleading, even for a kind of a regular course that uses weighted percents, is that different professors will have different ideas about what percent is associated with what letter grade. So, for example, you might have a prof who thinks that 80% is a B minus, and another prof who thinks that 80% is a B or maybe even a B plus. You should be able to find out the information on the syllabus page that they provide for you, but Canvas doesn't know any of that stuff. So if you just look on your dashboard and you see, oh, I'm getting 80s and 90s, that might be good, that might be great for certain courses, that might be pretty meh for other courses, right? So just as a general rule, I would not rely on those percentages you see on your dashboards. You should have a much more informed idea per course about what that means for you. I think that I have totally sabotaged this course's percent so that when you look on your dashboard, your percent is always going to look really bad and pathetic, which should be a reminder a nice friendly reminder from me to you not to rely on that and to just go to your grades page to take a look at your points instead. All right? Okay, and then I think this is my last slide for this video. Again, I think I covered a little bit of this when I pointed out the stuff on the phone, but when you submit work to me on Canvas using the blue submit buttons, that's what gets onto my to-do list. So you don't need to email me saying, oh, I just submitted this, can you please go grade it? Don't worry about it. It's in my to-do list. I'll get to it. Now, if it's been 48 hours and you haven't got anything back from me, that's when you should nudge me by email and say, hey, I'm anxious. I submitted this 2 days ago and I still haven't got feedback on it. Could you please maybe you forgot or something? And be polite, but feel free to bug, okay? All I'm saying is don't bug prematurely. Don't bug 5 minutes after you submitted something. It's in my to-do list, so you don't need to notify me separately about it. The other thing when you're submitting work, not for quizzes, but for when I actually ask for like a document or something like that, when you get started on mapping, you do not need to, at the top of the page, do what you were very well trained to do in high school, which was to put in your name, to put in the course, to put in my name, to put in the date. All of that stuff is now obsolete because Canvas keeps track of all of that stuff. Canvas will tell me who you are, what the submission time down to the second was for your submission, and it's all sorted by course and everything like that. So you don't need to do this for anything that you submit to Canvas. Now, if you have an old-fashioned prof and they still want a title page that has information like this or whatever, then you should give that to them. They haven't realized that they don't need it yet. All right? But I know that I don't need it, so you don't need to put it on my stuff. Okay? The other thing is that, of course, I've got a liberal resubmit policy. You can retry literally every quiz. You can retry literally every assignment, right? They're designed to be that way. So when you get feedback from me and it's not earned the points that it needs to or that you want it to, you can resubmit. You can also resubmit even before I've actually had a chance to take a look at it. So for instance, suppose you submit something and then 5 minutes later you realize, I forgot that one simple thing. You don't have to wait for me to grade that submission and return it to you and say you forgot this one simple thing before you submit that fix. If you realize 5 minutes after you submit something that you forgot something, you can resubmit that fixed version right over top of that original submission and it's fine. Okay? I will see the most recent submission that you handed in. I am able to see every version that you've submitted, but it will automatically, Canvas will show me just the most recent one. Okay? So if you do have that 5 minutes after realization, just fix it and resubmit it and everything will be good. Okay? And then again, I covered this on the phone on the previous slide. Don't comment on things without submitting stuff because I don't get notified if you just comment on an assignment page. If you just post a comment, I don't get a notice on that. If you want to ask me, so I return something with some rubric feedback or some other feedback and you don't quite understand it or you don't know how to fix stuff, don't reply to me in the same comments because I won't get the notification. Send me an email or submit something, again, even if it's the exact same assignment that's totally unfixed, submit it, and then in the accompanying comment, then you can say, hey, I just resubmitted the same thing so you'll see my comment. I don't know how to fix the thing that you told me to fix, or something like that, right? And then that way, because you submitted something, I'll get a notification, it'll get on my grading to-do list, and I'll get around to it. But probably the best option would just fire off an email. If you have something to comment, send me an email. All right? So that's the end of this video. I hope that kind of quick tour had some highlights that were useful both for understanding how I'm using Canvas, but also in general how you should be using Canvas for all your courses and not just my weird one. All right. The next video up in the module is learning more about Prusol. I said a little bit in the orientation video about how to navigate Prusol and how to use it, but the next video is going to show you some other tips and tricks and describe the grading around Prusol and how that works in a little bit more detail, because I always get questions about that. All right, so go watch that video.